like anything, you're not gonna. There's gonna be different. How do I say this? There's gonna be slight different. Maybe it's, and I'm gonna use this for an example because it's gonna translate, I think, for you well. There's gonna be differences in maybe footwork or hand placement if you're a boxer learning how to throw a power punch, but for the most part, the technique and the movement's going to be the same. You might have to do a little bit stuff differently to get more weight into it, but it's not a huge drastic difference between teaching a heavyweight how to throw a right hook and teaching a bantamweight how to throw a right hook. So you just got to know that it's all going to be relative, and don't necessarily think that because of your size it's going to help you or hold you back. You just got to be able to incorporate the technique and the movement and just make it work for you. Because I see a lot of guys that are 140, 150, and they're able to do 300-400 pounds. It's just, but the one thing I'll say that all the people that are a little bit lighter guys, but they put up huge weight, isn't. I'd say it's part of it's genetics, maybe part of it's the supplements they're on, but a lot of it's just anything. They are just technicians. And you see this in a lot of sports. The two sports that jump out to me right away are boxing and MMA. You see lightweight guys, the one thing that you see a lot of lightweight or middleweights get away with in boxing or MMA is the better people they're just technicians. You'll see some fighters get away with stuff just they have brute strength or just because they have good conditioning, where they rely more on just their strength than their coaching or their technique. So a lot of times maybe that's the uphill challenge for someone who's smaller, is because you don't have the overall mass, because you need mass. You need mass. People that say you don't, I have to strongly disagree with that. I know after this competition, I'm going to keep taking some of the supplements I'm on, that are provided by Jesse. There's stuff I'm going to take. I'm going to lean out, and I know as soon as I start leaning out, I'm going to lose poundage. And it's just one of those things you just got to be able to just put the ego aside. At least I do. I'm going to put the ego aside, tone it down for a couple months, tighten up, and then I'm going to get back into a bulking phase. But definitely, if you lack in overall size and poundage, you got to just be a super technician. But it's not to say it can't be done. In some ways, because you're not carrying excess body weight, it's easier for you or for someone who's lighter in weight to go to competition and will win a lot. I've seen a lot of people win by, something called Wilks, when it's your body percentage, your body weight to your poundage lifted. So there's some competitions, you might be a lightweight, I might be a heavyweight, but if you're a lightweight at 135 and you put up a 400-pound bench, your Wilks formula is going to kill me if I'm 300 pounds and I put up 6. Because with me, 600 pounds is impressive, but it's not impressive when you look at it from the standpoint I'm only putting up 2 times my body weight. Versus if you're 130 pounds, you're putting up 400 pounds, you're putting up 3 times your body weight. So just by Wilks formula, you're going to beat me out as far as overall. And there's different federations and different rankings and stuff when it comes to they look at that stuff. Just like boxing, they'll look at stuff like pound for pound. So I would never let size be a deterrent from what you can and can't do. If anything, I'd let it be the reason why you're going to do more than people say you can. Just don't ever let people put limitations in. Most importantly, yourself, don't ever put limitations based on what you think you should or couldn't do.
Well, what are we looking at, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then nutrition, your protein value versus carbs and carving up for a power day and a volume day and stuff like that? Because I've noticed my bigger lifts, squats and deadlifts, carbs are my best friends the day before and the day of. When I don't, I notice I sacrifice strength, I sacrifice a lot of that mental as well, because I noticed a lot of the carbs help me out. Can you share any light on that?
I think nutrition is key in a lot of stuff, and I think for me, for example, I'll carb up, and I'll keep my carbs high over the weekend. It just depends on knowing what your training cycle is going to be, what's going to be best for you. Me, I happen to be a creature of habit. There's a reason and I'll get into this a little bit now, is you just gotta find first you gotta find what it is your goal, what you're trying to accomplish, and then build your workout regimen and your eating so it can be conducive to being all beneficial on that day.
Okay.
So, for example, most competitions I do are on a Sunday. There's not that big of a difference between Sunday and Monday as far as my body recognition. So, if I have a competition on a Saturday or a Sunday, I'll make sure I'm doing really good carbs, a good amount of carbs on Friday and Saturday. I train heavy right now. My training cycle, I train heavy on Monday. So Saturday and Sunday, I'm taking as much carbs as I can. And it's probably going to sound real weird to say this, but the day of, and people that train with me, like on a competition day, I might have a muffin or two and some Gatorade. On my days I lift heavy, on my AM sessions, I don't eat breakfast. I want to go in on an empty stomach, and I want to go in just knowing that there's nothing else fueling me. And this is going to sound so cliche to say this, there's nothing else fueling me except for just the desire to be better and stuff, because I don't want to, I'd rather go in, how do I say this, and form a base of zero as far as when I train, rather than knowing, okay, because sometimes just because of just the way things happen, sometimes you might not be able to eat a good breakfast the day of, sometimes you might be able to great breakfast. So to keep it at what I call zero, I'd rather go in and have it be consistent, and maybe it would be more beneficial if I force myself to have more carbs the day of, for breakfast, or, more protein the day of, like I would say the day of, like an hour or two before I go work out. But and this goes back to just me personally, since high school days, where I really started to develop like the volume and everything else, and just having that coach who was just really, really aggressive as far as making me train. I didn't have time to eat breakfast before I went to lift, so just through habits, the same thing when I got to college, I didn't have time to go eat it because we had AM conditioning, and to me, I'm the type of person, I don't like to do anything on a full stomach and stuff, because if I'm going to work out to the point I'm going to get nauseous, I'd rather dry heave than throw up, and that was just a personal thing for me. So even to this day on my AM sessions, I don't eat breakfast, but that way, it sounds weird, but I'd rather just go off of the desire than have it mess with me mentally. Say, okay, one day I hit 500 pounds because I had, 2 bran muffins, a thing of naked, some protein powder, and I had a really good day. Versus another day, I might have a horrible day, and then I can attribute to that, oh, I didn't eat that same breakfast. You know what I mean? So it sounds weird, but on days I lift big, I'll go in and I'll just go in on 0 carbs. Just my pre-workout, just maybe a couple fat burners, and just the nature of wanting to get better. Now, I will say it's super important to get a lot of good carbs and to really make sure you have a very good protein and stuff for the recovery. Whether it's you're trying to put on mass, or whether you're just trying to put on, just maintain with a good lean, like the Lean Pro Matrix is really good, but it's more for me, it's more for recovery. And it's more to get back and get as much as I can before my second workout. So my first workout, I'll go in, no carbs the morning of, and then I'll take, my protein, and I'll get carved up for the second workout, because to me, I have to get that second workout, and I know I can't do it I got to replenish whatever I burned off. But I do my carbs the day before and not really the day of. But that's just how I grew up training. So I wouldn't necessarily advocate that for anybody else. That's one of those things you just gotta see what works for you. Some people, they go out and eat a bag full of Skittles before a football game. Is everybody gonna, advocate that? Probably not, but it works for Marshawn Lynch. And sometimes you gotta be your own Marshawn Lynch. You gotta find what's gonna be that one thing that you can do for you that might not work for anybody else, but it works for you. And then you just, you just kind of make it your own.
What about, like you say, you go work out in the mornings, later on in the afternoon?
Yeah.
I seen the videos, man. You don't see me get tired. I'll be tired. I wake up at midnight, go to work, and so when I get off work, like at 12, I go to the gym like at 1, I'm like tired, so I'm trying to get some like pre-workout to kind of keep me going. Does that work for you too, or?
There's days, I'm not gonna lie, there's days when I rely a lot on my pre-workout. There's stuff like, and and that's a testament. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna beat around the bush on this one. That's a testament to just the way some of this stuff is coming out. Just some of this stuff is just super high grade pharmaceutical stuff. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's whether you're taking a Giant, whether you're taking a Test, whether you're taking Rejuvenate. There's so many products, and I'm not just going to say products here. You can go to GNC, you can go to Mass Muscle. There's so much stuff that's produced at a ridiculously high pharmaceutical grade that it's bound to have a huge impact on what you're doing, you know? And the difference between some of the over-the-counter and some of the other stuff that you're going to get from maybe someone in the gym, am I going to say do it? No, but is it going to work? You know, some of the stuff that you get over the counter, it's like the way that it's chemically made up. If it's one or two branch chains different that makes one illegal and one not, your body's not going to miss that when you take it. So, I mean, does it work? Yes. Do I advocate it? No. But there's some days you're going to rely on it. Some days you're going to need a stimulant to get you through. But I think just to get back to the root of the question, how is there sometimes when you've trained with me, how do I go in? And I think it's kind of why I call, you know, why my nickname is the Machine, because I go in and I train like a machine. But it comes back to, and I'm not trying to just stand on a platform and say it's the best training method, but for me, years and years of volume have conditioned myself to where I can go in and I can do a workout and most people can't. They can't duplicate it and they can't really keep up. Over time, I've had partners that have got used to the abuse and got used to the overtraining, you know, and they're used to when I'm like, okay, we got 3 more sets. 5 sets later, we still got 6 sets. And people are like, what the hell? You just said we only had 3 more. Because I'm just a person that, until they close the gym or until someone's like, hey, man, I got to go, I'm just going to stay and lift. Because I feel I'd rather give a little bit of technique and I'd rather be completely exhausted than just say, okay, I got my 3x5. You know, I did it. I wrote it down in my book. My trainer recognized it. You know, I'm going to put a star next to my name, and I had a great day. That's just the way I train. I'd rather be dead fatigued, you know, doing 145 pounds. I mean, I'll invent stuff. We went to the gym one day, and we didn't have that plan to get into a competition of doing, you know, sets with 145 for 50. You know, the plan was, to be honest, that day, and it was my second workout, and I was supposed to do like 10 by 20 with some ridiculous, like 400 pounds. It was ridiculous. And it was like sit, and I was like, you know what? I'm freaking tired. I'm tired, but it comes back to the accountability. I can't just quit. I can't just in the middle of it say, okay, I'm done. So I always try to find a way to find a middle ground. Can I do 4 more sets? Probably. Is it worth doing 4 more sets just for the sake of saying I did it, even though the possibility of getting injured is super high? I'll still lift smart, you know, but that's why I'm saying part of the thing I love about the volume is that you can, on the fly, you can adjust to what you're feeling that day. So if the average person, like I said, where you got to just have this kind of self-created competition, if the average person in the gym that you're lifting against is doing 3x5 and they're happy with that, and you're on your 20th set of 20, and halfway through you're only able to do 8, are you still further along than the other guy? Yeah, so is it a bad thing if you say, okay, we only did 6 instead of 10, now let's go do, you know, 4 sets with, you know, 145 just to rep it out? I mean, it's not the worst thing, but it's better than what the other guy's doing. And sometimes that's all it takes, you know, and sometimes that's just where the volume just comes in and it just pays off because you're constantly evolving and outworking the next person, and the people that you do it with are going to hold you accountable to make sure you get through the whole workout, to make sure you're completely exhausted, to make sure there's days you come out of the gym and you just scratch your head like, what the hell did I just do? That was crazy, you know? Because I've had people, just to kind of edit, I've had people say, well, you know, I was told you're supposed to do this and do that. And I never want to come across as a know-it-all or come across cocky. That's why I'll reiterate, this is what works for me. But just, you know, last week I had someone say that to me. They said, oh, well, you know, aren't you going to overtrain? Don't you need to give your muscles time to recover? And And I said, in theory, yeah. Well, why don't you? And I wasn't trying to be rude or cocky, but I said, you know what? If I listened and did everything you did, I'd be like you. But that's why you're you, and that's why I'm me. That's why you're doing 300 pounds. That's why I'm doing 600. It comes at the end of the day. You just got to trust and know what you're doing, and just say, hey, you know what? This is working for me. I'm going to keep doing it until the wheels fall off. And it's not an over a cockiness. It's not an overconfidence. It's just one of those things. If you look at everybody that becomes a leader, great at what they do, a long time ago they learned to throw away the book. A long time ago, and it can be anything. The Michael Jordan, I'm sure Martha Stewart didn't follow every single recipe that was written down 20, 30 years. There's times she probably made something that tasted like crap, and she threw it out, and she said, okay, I'm going to add more nutmeg to this apple pie. Maybe I'm going to add applesauce. And then it just became something that she thought outside the box and did differently. Now everybody's like, okay, this is how you got to make apple pie, the Martha Stewart way. It's not the only way. It's just something that she thought outside the box and it worked for her. Now you can transition that analogy to anything, and I think that's the biggest thing is just training and the gym and overtraining and volume is you just gotta say, okay, you know what? I gotta do more than the other person, but I gotta stay within myself and not get injured. But I'm gonna evolve and find out what works for me.
You mentioned that you were taking some type of supplements or something. What's your stack? What do you like and why do you use it?
Right now, I think the biggest thing to any supplements is about what. Sometimes I'll take supplements because what I can't, I don't necessarily like taking a lot of protein. I hate a lot of powder stuff. So there's sometimes I'll take protein, but to get more of the stuff I don't necessarily get from food, I'll take a lot of BCAAs, a lot of branched chain aminos, just because I want to get more. Because you need it. I mean, it's not these pharmaceutical companies. It's not people getting behind saying you have to do this. There's science behind it. You got to be open-minded enough to say, okay, you know what? Maybe some of this protein is genetically better than some of the protein I'm going to get from the chicken at Albertsons. Maybe I don't want all that. Maybe I don't want to eat chicken all the time. Maybe I don't want to eat cans of tuna. Maybe I'm tired of doing the Rocky Balboa and slamming eggs. Sometimes this comes down to it. It's easier and it's pharmaceutically better. So I don't think supplements. I don't think they're all the best thing. I think you still got to put in the work. You know what I mean? I know people that maybe do. I'll just be honest. I'll step in front of this. I know there's guys at the gym that maybe do all the growth hormone in the world, and there's bodybuilders. You see everybody knows that guy at the gym that's on every single thing under the sun, whether it's illegal or illegal. Not everybody out there is 500 or 600 pound benchers. Not everybody's walking around like Phil Heath or Jay Cutler. So no matter what you take, you still got to be on top of your game. You still got to put in the work. Not everybody that drives a Ford Mustang GT 5.0 is going to be Mario Andretti. They're not going to be super great drivers. They're not all going to be able to go out and do stuff like Need for Speed. You can have the car, but if you don't have the skills to drive it, it doesn't matter. You can never get away from doing the hard work and the work to go into it. And that's just with anything. Whether it's you taking protein, whether you're taking any kind of supplement, you still got to put in. It goes back to why I wasn't an advocate, but I didn't sit there and slam Barry Bonds. Because at some point, there was a lot of people in Major League Baseball that took stuff, but they were all hitting 60, 70 home runs. There comes a point to it where it's genetics and you just got the skill set and you just put in the hard work. You can knock somebody, but at the end of the day, if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. And that goes back to what I say about sometimes you got to learn what works best for you and throw the book out the window. If the buy the book method was the best way, then every single person at 24-hour or any gym trainer, they'd all be getting paid way more because they'd have 1 million clients because they're like, okay, just read this book, do this, and you'll see results. There's 1 million books out there, but there's not one way to do stuff. There's a lot of different ways. You just gotta find what works for you and incorporate that. Any other?
I did. How much protein would you recommend? Would you recommend between 1 gram to 3 grams per pound, or? What would you recommend?
It just go with what's recommended. I'd say the best thing is just go to a place. I mean, fortunately here at this store and this branch, they have, people part of the skill set that they bring that separates Nutrition Zone from, say, a Max Muscle is everybody here that's hired is fully knowledgeable of what you need, because it's all based. I mean, it's whatever your individual preference is. I mean, there's guidelines, but you got to find what works for you, because some people respond different from proteins from food. Some people respond different to whey. Some people respond to different proteins. So you just got to find out what it is you're training for. Because my protein intake is way different in the off season, and my off season when I'm not lifting for competition versus when I'm in season lifting for competition. But I'll tell you right now, Lean Matrix Pro is a great protein. Do I take it in my off season? No, because I hate protein powder. I'll eat chicken or whatever I need, and okay, I'm cool with protein. But then again, I'm not necessarily doing what's conducive to what I need to do at the time. Right now, I need more protein, so I take the protein. But during the off season, I don't. But some people think, okay, you need this amount of protein all year long. It just comes down to you got to find out what works for you, and just get with someone who's more knowledgeable. And I think that's the biggest thing that sometimes in this sport, in general, people shy away from, is you can't be scared to ask questions. You can't be scared to ask for advice. I'll never be scared to ask for advice. I'm the first person I will admit that. When I grew up in the gym, I said no matter how, and this is something I try to apply on a daily basis with this sport. As far as me personally, no matter how big or how much success I have, I'll never be that guy that won't answer a question. Because everybody had questions. Everybody was that kid in the gym that was, 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe you're 15 years old when you first started the gym, that wanted to be like that someone else that picked up their first muscle bag. And then sometimes you go to meet these people, they don't want to answer a question, they won't sign an autograph, and it's just impossible. So you always want to just be able to just not be scared to ask questions, and just find out what's going to work for you. Because there's someone else is always going to have to, because everything is just kind of regurgitated and passed down. So why some people try to think that they can't pass along the knowledge or be forthcoming or share, I have no idea. That's why I ask questions, because I don't know everything. And there's still stuff I want to know, and I'll ask other people. And there's stuff I'll see, I'll read up on it, I'll try different methods, and I'll say, okay, this is what works for me. Oh, you shared it with me, thank you. Okay, I had to buy your book, thank you, not so much, but still thank you, because it was more than I knew before. Sometimes you just got to be a student, or there's different ways to get different stuff, different information, but you just constantly kind of just evolve and just not be scared, to ask questions and say, what's the difference between this and that? How did that work for you? What do you think of this? And sometimes you just gotta be skeptical. Sometimes people are just gonna try to sell you stuff. Sometimes a bodybuilder or a powerlifter is gonna endorse something because it's making them money. But I'm kind of skeptical like that, because you always want to look at something. What is this person's? What's their motive? How sincere is it? How much can you trust it? And don't just take something at face value. Compare it against other stuff. Don't just take because I lift 600 pounds and say, okay, he does this and he's doing, he wants to set world records, and that volume's the way to go. It might be great for you, it might not. You might not have the time to do it. You might not have the partners to do it. There's definitely other methods out there, because there's not just one person that's done 5 or 6 or 700 pounds. There's multiple people, and they all get there different ways, but there's still a common thread. The one thing I can say that's universally consistent is I guarantee you they all just didn't do it by the book way. They didn't just go in and say, I'm doing 3x5 on Monday and that's it for chest. And I'm going to take this, and that. I'm just going to overnight be the world's best bench
Okay, we started catching felonies and bankheads. Riding through the hood in a hot bar. In 96, in the SWAT, had a trap house. Every day cut school to sell crack rock. I got a pistol in my pocket and a bankroll. Anybody try me, I'ma let the thing go bust it. Put a whole clip through, you can't go. Cause I know your homie don't like it, but it can't do nothing. Can't do bustin', they respect that. You violated mandatory, nigga, bet that. Walk up, pull out the Smith and Wesson, push real bad. Now the undercover ask people if I did that. Came with the OGs hanging, OZs slanging. Styrofoam, double cup, codeine drinking. You run up on me wrong, 44 B banging. Meet you at the crossroad, what they gon' be singing out of.
Word on the street, I'm a suspect. Hanging with the